An Edmonton couple will be the first to test Canada's new airline passenger Bill of Rights after their honeymoon plans were delayed.
The gate agent took my boarding pass and my passport, had a funny look on her face, and said, I don't see you guys on this flight.
Chelsea Williamson and Sean Fitzpatrick say they were bumped from their WestJet flight to Italy without notice. They were put on a later flight, but say the delay meant a missed day in Venice. The Canadian Transportation Agency is now looking into the case to see if the couple is eligible for a refund under Canada's new air passenger protection regulations. Joining me now is founder and coordinator of Air Passenger Rights, Gabriel Lukesh. Mr. Lukesh, I want to start and just dig right into this Edmonton case. The couple said they checked in for their flights the night before, no issues, arrived on time at the boarding gate only to be denied a seat. How did this happen?
This is what has been historically called de facto or constructive denial of boarding. What the airline does is that they realize that the flight is overbooked, and then they move people around, they move people to different flights several hours, possibly days before the actual flight takes place, and that way at the gate, there is no appearance that the flight is overbooked.
Well, under Canada's new air passenger protection regulations, passengers are entitled to $1,800 in compensation for 6 to 9 hour delays. This couple ended up on a flight 5 hours later. Are you at all confident they'll see any compensation?
Unfortunately, under the new rules that the government put in place, I don't necessarily believe that these people are entitled to compensation. It is not that they shouldn't be getting compensation under the common sense. Indeed, before the regulations came into force, this would have been classified as denial of boarding. But unfortunately, under the new rules, the government botched the definition of denial of boarding. We cautioned the government about this. In fact, we warned the government several times, a long time before the new regulations came out.
So the new regulations actually making it harder for Canadians, not easier.
That's right. The new regulations make it worse for Canadians, and we were forewarning, cautioning the government about this. This is not something that we didn't know about it. We were predicting it. We expected this to be the case. And back in February this year, we put out a 52-page report cautioning about the number of shortcomings of the new rules. Unfortunately, the government wasn't listening.
Well, the Canadian Transportation Agency, they say they're now reviewing this Edmonton case. I guess, what do you think they'll be examining? What do you expect to come out of this?
That's not correct. They are not examining this case, although this prompted the inquiry. What they are examining is whether WestJet's terms and conditions are consistent with the new rules. I feel it concerns me that this is not going to end well for passengers or for the rule of law in Canada. I don't think that necessarily WestJet broke the new rules. What they have done is sneaky, it's unethical, but I'm not clearly convinced that they actually broke the new rules. It is the new rules that are fundamentally flawed and make things worse for passengers. And now the government is trying to use this case and perhaps WestJet as a scapegoat for that, instead of taking responsibility and amending the new rules.
Well, yeah, I guess stemming from that, when we spoke with you just last month, you said the new Passenger Bill of Rights, you said it didn't go far enough. In fact, it might actually make things worse. I guess, is this just an example of that?
This is exactly an example of the new rules making things worse. I never said it don't go far enough because, in my opinion, actually this is a step backwards, as we just see in this case. This is not the only example. You may remember just a couple of weeks ago there was a flight from Rome to Canada, an air transit flight, that also was stuck on the tarmac for a number of hours, exactly as we predicted. So it simply proves that it has taken only a couple of weeks until we already see that the new rules are not working, exactly as we predicted.
Well, also raising concern this month as airlines will be granted their day in federal appeal court over the new bill. 17 airlines and 2 industry groups argue the Canadian Transportation Agency new rules, they're overreaching. What is this appeal over specifically?
This concerns the airline's argument that has already been dismissed in Europe in 2006. That this type of rules that provide a lump sum compensation are inconsistent with some international treaties to which Canada is a party. It has no merits, and the European Court of Justice already found against the airlines back in 2006. But the airlines are trying their luck in Canada. What I'm finding more troubling, though, is the government is not defending the case, actually. They are making some bombastic public statements about how meritless the case is, but actually, when you look at the court record, they haven't filed any documents to oppose the airline's position.
And I guess what will you be watching as this appeal moves forward and as phase 2 of these new regulations come into effect in December?
I would like to see what the government is going to do, whether they are actually going to genuinely oppose this. I fear they are not. What concerns me the most about these proceedings is that no one in the proceeding represents the public interest, the interest of the traveling public. The airlines have airlines representing their financial interests. The government is represented by the Canadian Transportation Agency and the Attorney General, but who represents the travelers? No one. That is not right. When we look at what is coming in December, we're going to see more steps backward, unfortunately. Under the rules that will be coming into force then, airlines will be able to avoid the obligation to pay compensation by claiming that a delay or a flight cancellation happened due to maintenance issues. So they will be able to dodge responsibility for poor maintenance of their own fleet.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, Gaber.
Thank you very much for having me.
That is a founder and coordinator of Air Passenger Rights, Gaber Lukacs.